Hi everyone, this is Sharon Mistretta, and this is a flipped lesson on assessing technology projects. First of all, this is Screencast-O-Matic that I am using, and it is a screen recording software, so this is a little preview of our flipped lesson session. And I use this frequently with my students because I record short videos on certain skills and then post them on my website so they can review them or re-review them if they need to. And this is really a great way to do flipped learning. So that's Screencast-O-Matic, and it's a browser-based software. So it is really great. You pull across a frame of what you want to record on your screen, and then you're good to go. This is also especially helpful because once you're done, you can export it to your YouTube channel. Everyone that has a Gmail has a YouTube channel. So that's an explanation of this Screencast-O-Matic. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to our own website and show you that in the resources tab of our website and inside of the coding folder, I have a folder called Assessing Technology, and the 4 files that I am about to speak about are in that folder for your review. So I'm going to go over to my Adobe Reader, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the files that I want to talk to you about in terms of assessing technology. So when you have a project, it's a little harder to assess because you are gradually going to move your students from well-structured problems to moderately structured problems and then to ill-structured problems. So well-structured problems are essentially one that has one predictable answer. The solution is essentially a skill, and it's either right or wrong. So that is the skill to start up a Scratch program, and to save it, and to create some sprites and to establish their program. So that is a well-structured problem, and that is a small, perhaps formative assessment that you can do with them. So they're gradually going to more complex things. So that is called convergent thinking, because that's one solution, one right answer. You're going to move to moderately structured problems, and moderately structured problems are ones that combine their skills. So again, it's still the convergent thinking. That is one right answer, but there might be more than one acceptable solutions or solution strategies. So that's a moderately structured problem, and those are the types of problems that are typically found in schools. They're the ones that are in the back of textbooks and perhaps on assessments that are utilized. But what we try to move our students to in technology is an ill-structured problem, and it's a problem that they usually come up with along a theme, and then they define the problem, usually working in teams, and then they come up with a solution. And the solution is can go many ways. So you see here that there's no single well-defined solution or agreed upon solution. There also may not be a fully satisfactory solution at all, something that you might have to then revisit and revise. So those are ill-structured problems, and that is something that you would have either the student work on individually or in teams. So I've posted this Kirklees article on the principles of teaching problem solving. Also, I've posted for you an article that relates to Guilford's convergent and divergent thinking. So convergent thinking are the types of thinking that we utilize that have existing standards, existing formulas, applying a formula to something and getting one right answer. So that knowledge is fixed, is something that they're utilizing that knowledge, but they're not applying it. Divergent thinking is what is used in today's workplace and the knowledge economy. And divergent thinking, it rejects formulas and it gathers all of the skills and applies those skills. So those types of projects are harder to assess. So what I'm going to show you is a sample rubric and a sample assignment of what I utilize for that type of thinking. So here I have a rubric, and the rubric is having to do with Xcode. Xcode is an IDE, Integrated Development Environment, and it happens to be one on Xcode that we code apps in iOS. So that means that you code applications for iPhones or iPads. So that is what we use in Xcode. So this, what you're seeing right here, is a rubric for a high school setting, but these concepts are concepts that you can extrapolate to any grade that you're trying to assess a technology project. And these are some basic things I'm going to show you where you don't have to rewrite a rubric every time. You can have one Scratch rubric, you can have one MIT App Inventor rubric, and then I'm going to show you where I point to the homework assignment that has all the details for that particular project. So teachers are under a tremendous amount of time constraints, so you don't want to keep reinventing the wheel. You want to have a generic rubric that you can then extrapolate to whatever project you're doing. One of the items that I assess students on is timeliness. Again, these are the non-cognitive skills that I talked to you about in our live session. And those are skills having to do with meeting deadlines and staying on task. And this is something that is very important in the workplace. So I do remind them of how things are done in the workplace versus the way that things are done in schools. You're not being assessed on a skill, you're being assessed on your ability to work on a team, your ability to get things in on time, your ability to apply all of your skills. So these are thinking ahead to the knowledge economy. So you have here, I assigned 5 full points for an assignment that has been submitted by the deadline that's posted on my homework website. I do have a tremendous amount of extra help after school, so therefore, if the student comes for extra help and is able to get something in by the deadline, then that's great. I also keep track of who comes by for extra help and how much time they spend. I keep track of that each marking period, because when I have parent-teacher conferences and they can't understand why a grade is lower than they expected, I do take out my pad and I show them, I explain to them that how many times their student has come for extra help, and perhaps they need to come for more extra help. So that is a full 5 points is assigned for that. Here, if they have not come for extra help, but they've met with me before the deadline, I will give them 3 points instead of 5. This is encouragement to come for extra help. 1 is assigned for if they have not submitted on time. So I do make sure that timeliness is assessed. It is assessed as part of a technology project. Here is the example of how I have my students everywhere use a camel notation for their file name, their project name. And the reason is because if you're doing a Scratch program on photosynthesis, all your projects cannot be named photosynthesis project because you're not sure whose is whose. Excuse me. So therefore, I have them put their last name first, or I have them arrive at a team name if I'm doing a team assignment. I also do a particular class name. I assign my classes names of NASA missions. I'm just a NASA geek and I love NASA, so I do assign them the mission names for their group. Instead of using the red group and the yellow group, etc., I use mission names. And also, this is the name. Hello World is one of the first programs that they write, and that is the project name that I have declared on that particular homework. And then the satisfactory needs improvement steps down from there. In a technology project, especially the programming that I'm going to be showing you at one of the next live sessions, is that a program will build and run without errors. This is particularly indicative of programs such as in Java and in C and Xcode, that they run without errors. So that is something that I do have in my technology projects, building and running without any errors. Another topic that I do assess is that I have them output something into what I call the debug area. Debug is named for something that Grace Hopper had found in her past programming experience. She found a bug, actually a moth, in one of the circuits of her computers, and it shorted out the circuit. So once they found it, they taped it to their notebook, and henceforth any error that is in programming has been called a bug. So that is from Grace Hopper. I do have them put inside their debug area, which is the area of the program that just shows messages from the program. So I do have them put certain statements in there having to tell me what the mission is, what who the programmer is, in other words, their name, the program goal. So this extrapolated over to Scratch might be that you might want to have the student have a sprite announce in a think bubble or a talk bubble. This is Sharon Mistretta, and this is my Scratch program on photosynthesis that shows you in the very beginning. Here I use something called Skitch, and that is an app that allows you to capture a portion of your screen and then annotate it with rectangles. And this is something that I have the students use if they want them to annotate their program by taking a screenshot of it. And this is something that I use when I'm correcting something. This is very helpful when you are correcting their work. You take a screenshot of it using Skitch. And Skitch can be downloaded from either excuse me, the Apple App Store, or there's a version for Windows. So it is a very helpful free app that you're able to use. This is also very handy in terms of something that I wanted to mark as wrong, mark as correct. So it's very handy because I could just take a screenshot of something, and I can also change colors. It's pretty neat. All right, so I can change colors if I wanted to. Okay, so I can leave a nice work comment for them, etc. Also, you can save this. So if you needed to save it, you do an export, and you would be able to export this to maybe by student. So Mistretta, Hello World program. And I would just save that into a particular folder. I usually have a folder for each student if I'm doing sketches. Okay, so that is something that I've saved. So that is my rubric, and I also want to make sure that I had said to you that the one way that I make this very generic is that for the content of what I want them to do in their project, then I simply point to the homework website. So the student has met all the criteria of the program as outlined on the homework website. And the homework website, here's an example of what I would create and cut and paste into my homework site on, we happen to use Haiku. But here, this assignment are all the criteria for what I want them to do in their program. So I do have them do their last name and their mission. Here are certain variables that I want them to create. A variable is an area of your program where you can store data, and I will be going over that during our programming segment of our class. So what I'm trying to show you here is that I create one rubric for a particular type of program that I'm doing. It can be Scratch, it can be Xcode, it can be MIT App Inventor. I keep it generic so that I can point this to any Xcode assignment that I'm doing, and I do include the types of tasks that I am showing you now. All right, so this ends our short, I hope, short video on assessing technology projects. Thank you.